This little morning introduction, I thought I would just give a few minutes as to what we were sort of thinking when we developed this workshop in the fall. It might sort of help guide sort of where we're at as far as the structure of the workshop, and also sort of that last wrap up, how we might run that as well. When I read this title on Monday, after not thinking about this for a while, I was kind of figuring I was obviously responsible for it somehow. I was chair of the organizing committee, I guess, but it didn't make too much sense to me. So I thought what I would do is sort of run through a short presentation on what we were at least thinking as we went through the development of this project. On the organizing committee, there was myself, John Statt, John Dewu, Rick Bonner, is there anybody else? Sue, and Fran did most of the work, and Rich McCleary, who will be talking later. So this concept of processes is sort of what we were talking about, and the idea that there's riparian processes or general processes that govern how a riparian works, and I'll give some examples of what those are, which sort of lead to the functions that we have, which lead to sort of values or services that we gain from different parts of the forest, and including riparian areas. So this is a little schematic where we got functions, some are functioning, some are not functioning, these processes, which ultimately lead to some sort of value. Why riparian is such an interesting topic, and probably why most of you are out here, is they tend to be high value, and high value for all sorts of different values, whether, depending on what type of management scheme you're using, whether they're social, economic, environmental values, or they're sort of ecosystem services, or some of the other terminologies that's used for them. They're also very sensitive parts of the land base for all sorts of values, which provide sort of opportunity and also risks associated with sort of trade-offs and how we manage these systems. The functions, sort of the next spot that leads out of these processes. John Statt will hopefully talk about this a little bit more, but this was defined for us by a government committee in 2005, and they're sort of ongoing associated with that right now. So the morning was really broken up into what we really wanted to do was talk about general riparian processes and knowledge and tools that have been advanced over the last little while. And we sort of focused on those top three processes: erosion processes, sort of vegetation processes, and then wet soils. And so hopefully everybody has an agenda, and that sort of leads off after John Statt talks about the functions and sort of where the committee sits right now. Then the last sort of concept that we were looking at is how do we use this information within a basic forest management or a management framework in general. Generally, there's values or services that we want to maintain on the land base and for the public good, or for all sorts of goods. We want to look at what functions and processes do the riparian provide towards those values. And then we need some sort of system to maintain those functions and to ensure that they're properly functioning processes associated with them. So we need to identify. It's kind of hard to manage something if we can't map it or monitor it. And then some sort of process to actually minimize risk. And then follow up with some sort of monitoring, sort of two bins of monitoring: one, compliance, so are we following our process, and also effectiveness, is our process working. Ideally with some sort of thresholds and actions in the bottom, so we can have this plan, do, check, act within sort of an adaptive management framework where we can make changes as needed. And associated with this, and I'm hopeful that I haven't seen all the abstracts and stuff, but as we go through the day, the concepts of scale are really important. So there's sort of site-specific processes, but there's also sort of watershed processes and other issues that are going on at a larger scale. There's also temporal dynamic to this too. What do these stands and these riparian areas do through time? Are they static? Do they change? These types of concepts of scale associated with spatial and temporal scales. And that's sort of where I wanted to leave it, as sort of an introduction to what we were going to do today.